Just to let you know, our combined speaking fee for an hour will probably be in excess of $10,000. So ask and bring your turns.
Okay, if everyone seems too shy to start, maybe I'll begin by asking some questions. Let's start with Sean. Sean, your sharing was really interesting, and you shared about how you went about giving, well, finding a mission to give and finding different communities to give to. And so I do have a question to you. What would you say to someone who hasn't found the pleasure in giving, or perhaps someone who feels tired of giving? Because I think a lot of the time as we want to contribute, we feel that we give and we give and we give and we don't get returns. So what would you say to someone who's experiencing that?
Or everything that you've tried in terms of the instances where you've been giving and giving and giving, why do you get involved in that giving and giving and giving in the first place? Were you forced to do it? Did someone push you to do it? Was it peer pressure? Did someone guilt trip you into giving? And in terms of giving, there are actually many kinds of giving. It could be in terms of money, it could be in terms of time, it could be in terms of effort. So if you're very tired because you're giving something and you're not getting something in return, maybe that's not what fuels you, maybe that's not what drives you. So if you want to try different things, it doesn't work for you, change. But make sure when you try something, I suggest you give it your best and be confident that this is for you or this is not for you. Because there are different causes. You heard during my speech just now, we went to one particular place that didn't resonate with me. But that's okay, because everyone has different interests, everyone has different passions as well. So I would say, keep trying, but know when is the time to let go and say this is not me.
Thank you, Sean. Any speakers, feel free to
among you. And a leader, you must be relentless. And sometimes you give and give, right? And people may not respond. Or worse, people take your thing and betray you. You know, have you encountered situations like that as leaders? You coach someone so good, right? Then the person turn around and backstab you and say bad things, or you feel hurt, right? But this is what the leadership is about. It's about growing people, teaching them with no return, expectation of no return, right? In the hope that one day they can rise up and take on your position and grow other leaders. So the orientation is a bit different, you know? So don't get upset, don't get discouraged, because this is exactly, if you want to be a leader, if you want to grow leaders in your amongst you and become a great organization, this is exactly what you need to go through. Right? You just have to manage it.
So I like Sean's answer, yeah. But those of you who are EXCO members and you are trying to lead your group or whatever, you are the ones who need the most support, because it's easy to support people, but it's not easy to find people who are taking care of caregivers. So if you need stuff like that, go and look for them, because there are plenty of them around. I saw them hovering around earlier on. They must have left already. Failing which, I am a psychotherapist, so you can also...
I'm just going to add also, Stuart's reply is very profound. Sometimes when you give, and you don't feel appreciated, right? The last thing you want to do is believe that you are not good, you are bad. Means if you give and you feel tired, you feel that it's not you, it sucks you, and then you conclude that you are bad, you are not built to give. That is the last thing you must ever think of. This Stuart's reply is very profound. The thing that you're giving, that you didn't feel appreciated, is maybe not your thing to give. Come back again, find something else, and save yourself, because there will be one thing that you can offer that someone will need. And when that day comes and you give, it will be natural. You'll feel appreciated, and then you'll find your purpose. So last, just don't believe that you're bad. If you give, you don't feel that it's your thing, don't conclude that you're a bad person. Alright? Thanks.
Of course I have to say something now, because I have one question. So, giving has to be natural, and if at any point of time you feel that it is not natural, yes, revisit your intention, revisit if you do have the capacity to give, because not all areas in life is possible for you to contribute to, which is okay because you can only give what you have, which is why in counseling and in many areas of our lives we always emphasize on self-care. You have to take care of yourself first, because only then you can keep check of your tank of what you have, what you don't have, and what can be good enough to give. And what Ash mentioned just now, I agree with that, because I believe when you want to give, you don't have to give the same thing throughout your life. It changes as your life goes, because your life changes, and with that your tank increases and some parts of your tank also decreases. So revisit that. If at any time you feel exhausted, chances are you have given more than enough already, and it's time for you to pass the baton to someone else to do the giving. So move on.
Thank you. Well, actually, thank you all of the speakers. Interesting question it was. And I think along with that, probably everyone here as well has experienced that as you take up a leadership role and you start to give, after a while you may feel tired. I think especially exco members, right? You feel burnt out, and then you move from action into vegetation. So back to Stuart, this question, how do you move from vegetation back into action? And how do you sustain that?
Anyone takes retreats, personal retreats? Anybody? Okay, because if you don't, then how do you reflect? If you don't reflect, how do you know where to go next, right? So I have a practice, approximately between 10 to 30% of my income is plowed back into my own development every year. So that includes going to meet some other guru, maybe meditate in the mountains, that kind of stuff, go and listen to Lawrence speak, those type of things, and where there's a lot of self-reflection and so on. The vegetation is a sign that you need to stop doing and start thinking, right, about what you have done. There are 4 sins in learning: not knowing what to learn, not knowing what to know. The first one. Second one is not saying what you think. The third one is not doing what you say, and the last one is not knowing what you've done. Of all these 4. Confuse me. Of all these 4, yeah, let me say that again. Not knowing what to know, not saying what you think, not doing what you say, and not knowing what you've done. I think the last one is the most, it's the ultimate. So all of these 4 can be combated by self-reflection. Okay, by so doing, it enables you to go to the next cycle. I do this almost every year. Nowadays, I do it 3 times a year, just to get myself really, really clear, because I'm going at such a rapid pace these days. You can ask Larry, I'm in the speaker's chat. There's absolutely nothing from me, right? Because I don't have that much time, especially this period. It's the tail end of the year. But in spite of that, to be able to eke out some time, I opt for more energy rather than for more time. With more energy, I can do things with 15 minutes that other people would do in 6 months, that kind of thing. So to move away from that so-called vegetative state, you must have given stuff and you're not taking care of yourself. Like what we were saying, you've got to learn how to manage your self-care. So how do you recharge yourself? Do you know how to recharge yourself? Do you know how to reinvigorate yourself? And sometimes it requires you to hang around people who are inspirations to you as well. Then that wakes you up. So one question that I typically would ask you to ask yourself is, at the end of the year, ask yourself, was I playing too small?
Seems like Stuart has totally covered the question. By the way, are there any questions from the floor? Just ask.
My name is Nikita. I've got a question. This talk is about growing the leader within us. But one of the main things that I believe that to be a good leader is to have mentorship as well. How do you spot a good leader?
So the clarification is it to spot a good leader or to spot a good mentor?
A good leader and a good mentor.
A good leader and a good mentor.
So how do you spot a good leader? You look at what he does. You look at what he does. So how do you spot a good leader? I go back to the 4 practices. Because to measure a leader, these are the 4 qualities that I will look for. Are you competent in your job? Do you know your stuff? Or you're just bluffing? Do you bring people together? Do you build excellent teams? Right? The 做人part. Can you play your role effectively? 做戏 part. Do you use your role? Do you play your role to bring various parts of the organization together to accomplish the organization goals? Or are you using your position to advance your own interests? Right? You can see. And the last part, are you inspirational? Do you cause people to 做梦? Do you inspire people to a better outcome in an organization in future that is not apparent even now? So a leader, in my opinion, a good leader must have all these 4 qualities. And that's how I spot people. You know, in my time in the SAF, I spot many bad leaders also. But even bad ones, you can learn from them, how not to be like them. And a lot of people say, hey, you got all these people, that's how you manage. They say, bad one also will teach you something. Good one also will teach you something. So you just take it as a learning experience. Right. Does that answer the question? Mentor. Mentor are very hard to come by. Because not good leaders are want to be mentor. Just like a good stockbroker, right? He make all the money, he may not want to teach you how to make the money. So the same thing. So mentors want to appear, right? They're like, like for me, right? They present themselves. And you know it because there's a connection. These people will call you and say, are you okay? Shall we talk about something? Is something bothering you? I've not heard from you. So once people ask you such questions, they take a genuine interest in your own professional development. Those are signs that this is a mentor. Right? A mentor is different from a coach. I think you understand. A mentor is somebody that you respect. You come, he's like, been there like Yoda. Yoda. So when you say a mentor, it's like Yoda. Right? Coach is different. Coach will mirror you and you discover the answers within yourself. Right? Mentor is very different. So mentors are like that. Right? So you need to ask yourself this question. How many people in your life treat you like that? It means they're very experienced, very accomplished, but they still take the time and effort to come and connect with you, ask them how you are. These are the people that you can tell are mentors. Anyway, this is my experience. I'm sure the panel would have more insights to share.
All my mentors cost a lot of money. That's all I can say.
Well, if I may, I've actually heard about how, especially in the corporate world, a lot of young execs go into big banks and they get crowded out by all the politicking and jostling that goes around. So one of the interesting things is that a lot of these bank managers in the financial industry apparently still have time to mentor a lot of young execs. So what one of these managers told me was that he had approached, or rather he had been approached from LinkedIn. People search for his profile and they just basically send a message saying, hey, I noticed you have experience in this and I was very interested in how you think about something else. Right? Could you share more? I'd like to learn what you did and what helped you get through to where you are. They had coffee and from that he actually took on 2 to 3 students. And it's interesting because we always think that really successful people don't have the time. But the point is they are successful because they manage time well. And likewise, usually if they are successful, it's because they have served value to others. And in that same way, you'll be surprised at who's willing to serve value to you if only you open your mouth and ask.
If I can add a little bit more. Currently, in this day and age, we see leaders and often associate leaders as people who come and rally other people, usually at certain times of the year, to gather votes. That's how it is. But actually, in our daily lives, we do have leaders just sitting next to us. If you were to open your WhatsApp chat groups right now, who is that one person in a very quiet room that when that person speaks and not out of obligation, the rest of them respond? That is a leader. That person has the characteristics of a leader because the purpose of leader is to move the big crowd towards something. I do have one chat group that I always notice this one person, and she's not actually a friend of mine, she's my husband's friend, but I notice how whenever she says something, even to the most boring of topics, people will respond. But there are like 9 other people inside, more influential, and they have been there for a very long time. But when they say something, they're like, somebody please reply, click, 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 those kind of response. And nobody will still reply. But when she said something, then sometimes she will be the only one to reply to those questions. So when I look at her behavior and her disposition, she has that. She's a humble person, very silent and quietly gathering support, moving towards a good cause. So don't be surprised if the leader could just be your friend. They just don't know that they are the leader inside and people are looking at them as the leader.
Just a quick tip is to learn also to be a good mentee and good mentors usually.
When I was in my first job, I was given the task of organizing my company's dinner and dance, the company's 20th anniversary. And that was quite an honor. So I was appointed as the chairperson of the entire event. At the end of the day, the event was very successful and I spent a lot of time working on the event. And I got a lot of advice, oh, good leader. People who are in the committee know that for the large amount of time, they didn't have to do anything. And why? Because I was the only person doing everything. And when I thought about it at the end of the event, yes, it's very nice. Oh, chairperson of 20th anniversary dinner and dance for a big company. Really, is that a sign of leadership? Not to me, not to me. On paper, yes. On title, yes. But in reality, no. So I think a leader would be, if I see a leader, someone who's able to move a group of people towards a vision, towards a goal, and the goal is ambitious enough, it's lofty enough, such that people are inspired to go towards it. A one-man show is not a leader, not to me.
Oh, are there any more questions from the floor here?
Hello, panel. My name is Stanley. I've been a for 20 over years. I just have some observation myself. I've been very successful in the corporate life. Of course, along the way, you realize I need to give back to society, like all the givers here. So I started giving back to society, helping unfortunate people, underprivileged people, and along the way, it became a kind of quicksand syndrome, quicksand, I was being dragged into it, time and time again. I lost it a couple of times. I've never given up. I'm still helping people. But, as I reflect, always reflect, why did I do that, but after reflection, I still go back and do the same thing, And my friends, close friends, my own wife, I say, why are you so stupid, don't you learn? Don't you learn from your mistakes? You keep helping people and yet you get into trouble, then you come out again, you help people. So, I just want to ask the panel, do you have the same kind of experience, and how do we draw a line of certain people just don't want to be helped? But for me, it's very difficult for me to draw a line, because I know if I put in more effort, this guy can be transformed, this guy can be helped. But sometimes I'm so persistent that I don't give up. Until I got myself hurt so badly, and then recover. And after a while, I'm still playing the same old game. So, how is there a way to stop me from repeating this kind of horrible cycle, so-called?
Go to prison, can stop. Just kidding. I know exactly where you come from, because that's also happened to me until I was taught how to set boundaries.
Yes,
some people set boundaries, but some people build walls. It's very different. When I set a boundary, it's an expectation that if I help you, you can ask those guys who are in my community, like Larry, Chua, who say, I always say, my help is for free, but it's not free from your responsibility. You have certain things to bring to the table as well. So what are they? What are deadlines? For me, it's 3 strikes and you're out. It's a very simple rule of thumb. As to your coming back and then going through the same thing again, perhaps
it's to a different party, not the same party.
Sure.
Party.
Yeah, of course. So perhaps it's something that you need to look at from 2 sides. The first thing is, my heart goes out to you. You've got a heart of gold. You're wonderful.
I don't have pocket of gold. I keep going, and my pocket of gold is depleted.
Correct. So that's why I never give money. Never, zero.
So
I give effort.
certain instances you need finance. Yeah. So,
I don't believe in giving finance either.
Okay.
I believe if people are innovative enough, they're resourceful enough, money will come. So that's why I educate rather than give money. I give knowledge and
I do
help
both.
them to
I do both.
help them empower. Other than that, your own personal reflection, perhaps that's your hero's journey. That you will eventually find some meaning in all of this, so that you can become even greater. Your heart will spread around the world, kind of thing, right? Yeah. So it may be a difficult thing to recognize, but over time you will come to discover that the universe is sending you some kind of a message.
I always tell myself to overcome. I always tell myself that if this could be a sort of training schedule for me, someone somewhere to make bigger things waiting for me to do. I just believe in. That's why I keep going. I never stop.
Okay.
That's just my thinking. Something big could be waiting for me somewhere.
But Stanley,
so it's a training process.
So is it true that it is not that these are maybe the 1 or 2 out of the 100? It's not all. If it's 98 out of 100, then we need to have a private conversation.
I would
right?
say about 20% of those people that I help, 20% will give me this scholarship.
So,
But these 20% are really, all kinds of dimensions. Spiritually, everything is really dragging me right into the quicksand. I mean, you're trying to help pulling somebody up, but actually, if you're not careful, you get dragged right inside.
certainly. So I definitely recommend the right kind of boundaries and proper discernment of who it is that you're helping. Maybe because even if you left them in that quagmire for a while, let them settle some stuff, maybe end up floating on their own, then they're easier to help. That kind of thing. It's about timing. A lot of the time it's about timing.
Stanley, maybe I'll give a different view. When we help someone, we are focused on them, helping them, our expectation of them, just like me and my children. I want them to change, I want them to do this, I want them to do that. But the truth is, in my opinion, we give for us. So when you give people anything, love, time, whatever, it's an effort that makes us feel good. So if we look really hard, at least I look at myself, there's always a personal agenda. I do what I do for my kids because it makes me feel like I'm a good parent. It makes my purpose fit, right? So it comes back to me. So when you talk about that scenario, I'm just proposing a different view to it, that there must be a return to you. There must be something that you need that giving supplies. In the earlier part of the morning, one of our Mother of Toastmasters made a speech about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Was there people here that attended the talk? So I just quickly summarize it, and it touches this point. Maslow's hierarchy of needs? There's like a triangle, and then the base level is physical needs, and then on top is self-actualization. So her story she shared was that basically the first 3 levels are physical, right? But to get to the self-actualization, you must give. The key to getting up is when you give to others, then you can be self-actualized. So I can explain her whole speech as well as I can, but the message I'm trying to put across here is that when we give, while we're focusing on others, there's actually a personal need that we are fulfilling. So yeah, if you can see that need, and you feel that that need is being fulfilled by all you're giving, that's all fine. But you feel that need not being supplied. You want self-actualization, but this is not creating self-actualization for you, then maybe that is no longer meaningful to give.
You see, what you touch on something is why am I keep going on? Because when I really helping them, giving them that time, I never thought of the returns, okay? But trouble is along the way, sometimes walking on the street, somebody will come to me, hey, thanks for your help. I said, do I know you? Yes, you helped me 5-10 years ago. I don't need to forget that today. Is Mary here? Mary, I left. Oh, here? She told me that I teach her how to be a judge. I teach her how to be a chief judge, which I can't remember. But she said that was something about 15 years ago. She said because I brought her out from a normal Toastmasters to become a very good judge. You see, things like that, wow, you know, I did create some impact on people's life. And along the way, from all walks of life, people come to me suddenly, out of all the blue, strangers come to me and say, hey, thanks for helping me. So it's strangers to me, you know. But actually, we encountered some encounters in the past. And this is what I keep telling me, you never know. You touch one life, I don't see return right now, could be 5-10 years later. So what you mentioned is, you know, what sort of agenda we have. So I don't have agenda, I just wanted to go and help. But it was those people that come back and show appreciation that make me want to continue this journey. But trouble along the way, I get hurt myself. But I know how to recover, I know how to research, you know, reflection and know how to. But I'm just wondering how long my energy will go on and then before. I don't know. So I just want to know, yeah, you say you draw a boundary, yes. I mean, we have an imaginary boundary, but sometimes we know that even where I should not cross this line, I just refuse to give up. I still cross. You know? Sometimes I make it, sometimes I get hurt.
Well, again, it's a question of what your expectation is. If you ask me, 80% success rate is not bad.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
but I would like to at least raise it to maybe 1995. You know.
Okay, can do Six Sigma. Yeah. Let's see whether that works. But the fact is, human behavior is so unpredictable. Yeah. Even as a psychologist, I wouldn't be able to tell, right? So I make my own judgment calls. I make my mistakes. I learn about discerning, and yet I'll still get disappointed once in a while. Someone wise told me, you know, if you don't want to be disappointed, don't have expectations. You know, so then you'll be fine. You'll give.
Life will be very dull.
Well.
Thank you for the question, Stanley. Are there any more questions from the floor? Yes, Jessica.
We human beings make mistakes. What happened if leaders make mistakes? Do they apologize? I see most leaders don't.
Do they apologize?
No, they don't.
Yeah. Unfortunately, apparently they don't. This, I can relate to you a story. I was in NPCC, National Prison Netball, as my CCA for the longest time. And when I became of a leadership position, there's this position called honorary officer, where you are in charge of a group of leaders and then the leaders below them, so it's like quite high up in the cadet level. And there was one time I said sorry to the rest of the people under me, and I was pulled to the side by one of the person below me and said, "You are a man. Why do you apologize?" And it showed me like, you mean what? Am I high enough that I don't need to apologize? I believe a leader must apologize because we are still ultimately human beings and we make mistakes, which is very true. So I cannot really add to that other than saying that yes, maybe giving a reminder to all of us that whether or not we are leaders or not, we apologize when we make mistakes. That's all.
If you're in corporate, the leader making a mistake and admits it, may end up being culpable for legal action. So sometimes they don't do it. I mean, this is just the practical side of things. But I totally agree. If any one of us makes a mistake and we are willing to stand up to it and make amends rather than just apologize and don't do anything about it, that's a very distinct thing, right? So if I can say, yes, I've done something wrong, here's what I intend to do, please tell me. It's like a restaurant, right? You got food poisoning, then they apologize to you, and then they give you coupons. Will you go back? You won't, right? But discount, 10% discount, you wouldn't even dare to go back. But if they say, I promise you that this is what's going to happen, if not, I give you lifetime supply of dinner or whatever, you go back just to test out a few things, and then you realize, hey, this is not bad, and they treat you like the queen. Okay, you know, based on what Lauren said, what have they done? If they've done that and they've taken feedback and they've implemented it, then that's the start of a completely new relationship. So really, even as leaders, we also need to do that. If I've come to recognize feedback, and I need to do some changes, I'll do my best. And maybe I'm not the guy for it, maybe it's somebody else, but at least I've done something about it.
I think as a leader, it always is important to firstly know if you're in the wrong. Right? I found it very useful to, if I made a mistake, I own up before people don't find out sometimes. And I'm getting more and more comfortable going up to my team and saying, hey, sorry, I screwed up. Now, here's what we're going to do. And from there, people take it that, oh, okay, he acknowledged that he's made a mistake. No, it's not so much the part of, hey, he's human too and all that kind of stuff, but he's big enough to come out and say, I messed up, but I'm going to make things better. And I found that has been very useful in all the teams that I work with. I found out by accident when I was captaining my squash team at 13 or 14, and I found that it's still relevant when I'm in work right now. The toughest thing for a leader is actually a lot of times just to say, I messed up, because there's pride, there's ego. And once you put that aside, I think you might even get a stronger, the desire to go and follow you as a leader, to look up to you is even much higher. Alright, so you can mess up, but you can bounce back even higher.
Can I just answer? Because I think my point you may have to answer. Okay. So that question is a very good question. And I was thinking, I made my mistakes. I find it easy to apologize. I don't have a big ego that holds me back, so I apologize quite readily. But I found that when I apologize and when I don't apologize, there's no clear correlation of when I apologize, my team gets more motivated, or if I don't apologize, my team gets more motivated. So I don't have an answer for your point. But when you asked that question, I was thinking that as a parent and child, if I have a father figure who makes a mistake and doesn't apologize, does he make him a less of a father? If he recognizes the change and he does things to a man, just because apologizing or not apologizing, there are so many factors.
Apologizing or not apologizing is a symptom, right? It's an observation. When you step back and you peel, you look at this at a larger level, an organization whose leaders don't apologize speaks about the values of this organization. What's really going on, the culture, because from all literature, right, if you read all the management literature, a great organization is one that learns, is one that translates learning into action, and is one that translates the learning into action rapidly in this environment. I did say all this, this is what Jack Welch said in his famous book, right? If an organization don't learning, of course, you need to make mistakes. When you make mistakes, you need to apologize, you need to be open about it. And if people don't have this culture, then it's a symptom of an organization in decline. Right? I don't want to comment about our public institutions, whatever, certain organizations. But you look at the stripes, you know where it's heading. The writings on the wall. So if you have a situation where the leaders don't apologize, or people inside the organization don't own up to things, right, then surely you know there's a symptom of something deeper. Even families, if your family members, some of them commit something and they don't apologize, something is fundamentally wrong and you need to fix. It's not just about apologizing or apologizing. It's sometimes a symptom of something more deep-seated. Spend more time exploring. Yeah. I hope I answered the question.
That answer helped me because the apology, while it feels good to receive it, it's not important. The importance is whether you recognize the problem and you learn and you change. So I think that is more valuable than whether the leader apologizes or not. Whether the leader recognizes that a mistake was done, whether the leader understands what needs to be done differently, and does he take action to make sure that doesn't happen again.
And as a leader, right, it's very important you go back when people try to talk about issues and the problem, and when people own up, right, you have to encourage this culture. Don't go back and come and say, people say, you hang this over here. Then you spoil that. So in my workplace, I encourage, what's the problem here? What's the issue? Or do we say something wrong? My workers, my colleagues are here, you can ask them. So you want to have a culture like that. You want people to own up, to say they're sorry or they made a mistake. you rather they say upfront rather than wait 90 days later, then the virus become a cancer, then it's too late. Yeah. So as leaders, very important. And of course, then you're going to ask me how you're going to do it, right? It's an art, you know. Because I don't understand your context, your workers, the mix of the people you're working with. So that, as a leader, you need to practice that part. How to work with your people, the context around. Okay.
Perhaps a final question for the panel, since we are pretty short of time. It would be that I'm sure all of us here have faced challenges in terms of the tribes that we're in, whether we are in a leadership position or as a follower in the tribe. How do you de-conflict tension or direction? Or perhaps how do you deal with the environment if the environment is challenging? Or how do you deal with specific people who are challenging you within the tribe itself? Yeah, question open to all panel. I think this is something that all of us will face.
Okay, after my accident, I lost my memory, but my family are very ignorant about brain injury because Singapore don't provide acquired brain injury in the education system, and there's no social framework to help. So what happened was that when I was recovering at home after I left hospital, I faced a very confounding issue. My elder brother got to take over the burden to support the family because my father died of a heart attack due to my accident. My mom lost her beloved husband because of his son. So she loved me and she resented me at the same time. So under this kind of environment, there was one night about, I think maybe half a year after my accident, when all three of my family members, my younger brother, elder brother, and my mom, scolded me at 11 plus p.m. I look at them, oh, they love me, that's why they scold me. I talk to myself in my brain. What I did was that I asked myself, do I want to argue with them? Or do I want to appreciate their love, smile, and just keep quiet? I chose the latter. After I kept quiet, I smiled, they were confounded. Huh? I scold you, you smile at me? You know what I did next? I turned around, I went to the main door, I opened it, I went for a 2-kilometer walk at 11 plus. With my broken leg, I was limping around. But I was calm. The cool, serene environment allowed me to reflect and know that I did the right thing. When I came back home, my younger brother came up to me and said, hey, sorry bro, sorry for what we did just now. Guess what? When you left the house, each of us went into our own recluse, reflected and regretted. From that day onwards, my family no longer gave that kind of verbal battering in unison. It's about be calm, you can change the game. Thank you.
Not so easy. Is Marshall still counting us? I hope not. Because I'm into that. Your conflict it only comes about if you take things personally. You understand? When somebody says something like what Takala mentioned, he learned not to take things personally. There's a very valuable book I highly recommend it. It's called The 4 Agreements, written by Don Miguel Ruiz. It talks about the 4 agreements, right? The first one, be impeccable with your word. Second one, don't take things personally. So there's a series of others. You can go and take a look at it. It's a fantastic book, which I feel if we started to look at another person empathetically, it will become easier for us to not go, oh, he's attacking me. I mean, they may be really saying something against you, but if you look at it behind what they're verbally saying, there might be something else behind it. Who knows what your life is about, right? If you take a look at me and what I do, you wouldn't know that my dad is in stage 4, he's gone through 15 rounds of chemotherapy, he also has diabetes and so on and so forth. You wouldn't know from my face. You wouldn't know even from my actions. I may scold, I may shout, I may scream. But the truth of the matter is something else is bothering me. You just happen to be the messenger that got shot, that's all. So if you got shot and you go like, wow, okay, what's going on here? We get a chance to co-learn together. That's what I think.
As a leader, right, there's always this tension between you as a person and you in the position. Right? When I was, Lawrence Ling is a nice guy, right? Very sociable, blah, blah, blah. Likes to talk to people. But when Lawrence Ling becomes the chief of artillery, it's a different matter altogether. Right? You are very nice people, sociable, but when you become a leader in your organization, it's about the office, it's about the values, about the mission of the organization that you lead. And invariably, you will have challenges like that. People will come up to you, and you need to distinguish this thing. Because when people come and talk to you as a leader, they challenge the mission of the organization that you lead. It's not attacking you personally, which is what Stuart was trying to explain. Right? You must be comfortable with this. If you're not comfortable with this, it's very hard to be a leader. If you take everything people say, person attack, wow, you're so sensitive, cannot. So for me, then the question is how I deal with it. Of course, when I talk in my position, I will say, as Chief of Artillery, I will not do this. But if you ask Lawrence Lee, maybe he will consider. I try to, in my conversation with people like that, I try to, and when you use personal words, I try to bounce back and say, look, let's separate this. It's not personal, it's about the position I'm in, right? And then of course, just now I touched about, you need to set up rules how to engage one another in an organization. And then you go back to those rules. You try to go back to something larger than the persons that you're dealing with. It's about it's about what we agree. These are the rules of engagement, right? So once you have this, then easier for you to engage people. So as a leader, you must be comfortable with that, which is a 做戏 part. 做戏, you need to play your role. You cannot, because I learned this person, I cannot tell anything back to it. It's like I hope it helps.
Just going to add a different dimension again. All that Lawrence described as a leader and how you handle conflict within an organization, I fully agree and I try hard to learn. But then the question was about tribes. To me, there's a distinction between a tribe and any organization. So in a tribe, it is a group of people who believe in the same thing, right? So if there is a conflict and someone believes on something different, I think form your own tribe. Fine. I don't have to change you to believe in my cause. So in a tribe, I take a non-confrontational approach. It doesn't have to have everyone agree. God, you only join the tribe because you believe in the cause. So there's no disunity already. If you don't believe in the cause, you find another tribe. So I don't know if this sounds like Tai Chi, but when it comes to tribes, I think when there are conflict, that means that there are differing views of how this movement should move. Then there's a lot of frustration, you try to convince that guy to believe in what I say. But you don't have to, because the tribe is about a common cause. So I'm just going to throw this out. So if Toastmasters is now facing, for example, different views about how Toastmasters should become or should be, then there may be space for two tribes. One tribe believing that this is what it should be like, another tribe may believe another thing, and that's how tribes form, basically.
Maybe back to Ash, sorry Sean. What if you don't have that opportunity to split? What if perhaps it's family? Something that perhaps the greater sense of purpose is, we decided, we committed to this, we are going to do this. But at the same time, maybe father wants to go to the US, mother wants to go to China, they both don't agree, fine. Right? In which case, it's not a case of taking a family vacation to, dad can go to US, mom can go to China. But how do you resolve that conflict or resolve that tension within the tribe itself? I think that's something that I think everyone would have really loved to build. Yeah. Sean, do you have an answer to that as well, perhaps?
Okay, so this is classic conflict resolution. So you want to go to the US or you want to go to China for what reason? You want to go to the US? Can you go to the Chinatown in US because you want to buy the stuff that the Chinese have? Or must you go and see that particular cliff in China? It's very different. So it goes into, you see, the problem with most people when they're collaborating or attempting to collaborate is they take positions. It's like, no, I'm worth $5,000. No, you're not worth $5,000, or then it becomes personal, right? Why do you think, how do you come up with that number that you're worth $5,000, or that you want to go to the US, or this book is worth $60, right? And then we start creating options. Okay, so you don't believe it's worth $60, I believe it's worth $60. How do we collaboratively come up with something that's win-win? And the only way to look at it is to stop looking win-lose and begin to look at options, which is a classic negotiation thing, right? If any of you have done negotiation school, it's about what are the options? Let's put everything on the table. You haven't said everything. Let me show hand. These are all my resources available to you and I. Show me yours. And then chances are the collaborative space is likely to open up. So who knows, they may realize that actually US and China were not really the ideal, and then they end up in Bhutan, for example, who knows?
When there's conflict in an organization, it's a classic symptom, there's no people strategy. Because just now I talked about people strategy. The elements of a people strategy actually compels you to talk about why is this even here? The collective aspiration part. How are we going to govern our interactions? And do we set aside resources and time to do that? Right? Which is the when and what part. So if you look at the organization, there's more in conflict and whatever, chances are again there's no people strategy. We don't talk about why are we here in the first place. So one of the ways to address this is to begin such conversations, bring it back to a collective aspiration, bring it back to a discussion of our collective aspiration, where we want to be, where we want to go, how we govern those interactions.
Okay, when you have a tribe and you have a conflict, what's the conflict about? Is it a difference in opinions where you can find a compromise, or is it a difference in the values that each of you see? Right? I think there has to be a clear distinction. So, for example, in the squash club that I play with and I still compete in, the culture of the club is such that for everyone who joins, no matter how good a player you are, you have to be comfortable playing with a new, fresh player. You can't go to a training session and you choose your opponent and you say, I only want to play the best players. As a club, our culture, our values, we don't accept that. Right? The common goal is to win. But there are a lot of ways of winning. You can win through cheating, or you can win through other ways, the clean ways. And even though the goal may be same, if your values don't align, be it in a company or be it in a tribe, then maybe you just should separate. Yeah, it doesn't. You don't always have to stick to one tribe just because you feel that attachment. Because it's painful when your values don't align. You can't agree on the way to achieve a certain target. So that's the way I say. What exactly is the conflict? Because there can be many things to disagree about. If your values are aligned, but disagree with the way it can be done, a compromise is possible.
Sean, I think that gave me time to think through, and this is a beautiful question because this is exactly what me and my wife are arguing over for the last 2 months. It's December, and we're trying to find a holiday vacation, and we are trying really, right? We can't split. Maybe, yeah, we can, but we are going to try because our common purpose is our kids. So I've seen how our place to go change. It's like she wants somewhere cold, she wants somewhere more, I want somewhere rugged. So left, right. But at the end, it's where we think is best for the kids. So that always makes us like, okay, yeah, let's think creatively. And the where we're now going to likely go was completely not in the first list of options. Yeah. So I think you have to open because the common value. And the purpose is our kids, and then we're open to finding an option that will make sense based on that objective.
Thank you. So it seems we've run out of time, but we've definitely learned so much from all the speakers here. Can we give them a round of applause? And of course,